We're doing something a bit different today. For those of you who don't know, I'm Hector. My entire job at SkillCapped is figuring out low elo to help people climb. That's my career, playing low elo. Yeah, no, family reunions are just always so fun to go to, always such a good time. So for this video, SkillCapped gave me a list of some of the most commonly asked questions in League from lower elo players. As an expert on helping people get better, I'll be giving you my take for some of these and give you answers that should help you climb way faster. So, let's get on with the first one. Alright, this looks like the most asked question of all time to kick things off. What champion should I play for whatever elo? The answer to this will never change. Play what you think is fun. The more fun you're having, the more time you'll put into the game, and the more you'll improve. Clearly having a good time and elo are directly correlated. Effort is how you improve, and you only put effort into things you enjoy, so just play what's fun. Just do me a favor, okay? Don't play Shaco of all things, have some self-respect. But if you think being OP and playing what's meta is what's most fun for you, then just watch our tier lists. They'll tell you exactly what's good for your elo. Moving on, how do I deal with ranged champions as a melee? No joke, one of the challenges I did for SkillCapped ages ago completely changed the way I view bad matchups. I recommend the video if you want it explained better. To put it simply, when you're in a bad matchup, you're generally being denied way more caster minions than anything else. Those are the hard ones to go for, whereas hitting melees and cannons is usually kinda doable. So usually, 1 CS has an average value of like 20 gold or so. But in bad matchups, the average amount of CS you're losing is only worth like 15 to 16 gold because you're losing mostly casters, right? Think about it like this. Imagine you got zoned off every single caster minion for 5 entire minutes. That's 10 waves, 3 casters per wave for a total of 30. They're each worth 14 gold, so 30 times 14 is only 420 gold, of course it is. That's what, a ruby crystal worth of stats? Who gives a hoot? It doesn't matter. You're never going to lose lane because you're down a ruby crystal or a longsword. So in these bad matchups, you should be completely fine giving up a lot of CS, especially the casters, if it means that you can keep your health levels high. If you keep your health high enough, it's more likely that you can go in and punish the ranged champion when they inevitably mess up. Better yet, sometimes your jungler does connect to the game, and if the ranged champion is permanently pushing you in, they're gonna get ganked eventually. And then if they die a single time, they are completely boned. You get a kill, a level lead, some turret plates, and now the ranged character can never play the lane anymore. It's really easy to win these lanes in low elo if you don't lose your mind early and die for some CS. Oh boy, this is a tough one. What is the fastest way to improve at this game? This answer varies wildly based on what you're learning and what your goals are. But I'm going to assume that most of you are going for a sensible goal like Diamond or Masters at most, and you're trying to learn the macro to get there. If that's the case, here's some advice that might contradict what a lot of other high elo players will tell you. You should watch way more than you play. I'm talking like 70% watching and 30% playing. It makes no sense to grind this game. It's like going to math class and your teacher is just like, hey, go invent calculus again. Do you see how stupid that sounds? Someone's already grinded out the game, so stop trying to figure it out yourself. Learn from what others do, and then go and try to copy it in your solo queue games. That being said, a 70% watch, 30% play split is some really sweaty try-hard trying to get better stuff. You can adapt it to what you want to do. The main takeaway here is to stop mindlessly grinding the game. It doesn't actually help you. Following that note, as a service to watch to help you improve, is SkillCapped worth it? My honest opinion, there's for sure some room for improvement like our site's search functionality. We are definitely working on that as we speak. Not only that, but we also don't have much content for players above Diamond. I do think you can get to around Masters with just our content, but we are lacking higher elo stuff. That all being said, no one else teaches the fundamentals as simply and effectively as us. We have really easy to understand Master Minutes courses that people love on our site. They're nice, bite-sized videos that are easy to watch and learn from. In fact, I'm one of the people who pitched that we start making them because that's how I would want to learn other games. I want quick, reliable information, and that's what those are. So personally, I do recommend skill cap if you've got the money for it. What I would do is use us to learn all the fundamentals of the game. Macro, wave control, vision, etc. We've got you on that front. Then I would pair that by finding a high elo content creator who plays your main champions. That way you can see how the fundamentals you're learning from us apply to the specific champions that you're interested in. If you do that properly, you'd probably climb pretty fast. Okay, for the mid laners out there, how do I deal with an assassin who's just roaming around and killing my team? Obviously, the 200 IQ answer is to just win your lane, so that can't happen. You're welcome. But let's assume you're already behind. Here's what you do. Try to put a ward in the middle of the lane when they're not looking so they don't just sweep it. This way, when an assassin pushes you in and roams, you can notify your teammates which way they're going instantly. Very importantly, do not try to follow them and counter their roam. Assassins often pretend to roam to bait you to follow them, and then they just kill you in the river. There is nothing you can do but ping and pray your teammates don't die. While they're roaming though, try to see if you can cross-map the opposite lane from where they're going to. If not, just take a turret plate or two. That's usually all you can do. Up next, how do I snowball my lead? Obviously, this depends on a ton of variables, but there is one thing I notice almost every single player Diamond and below get wrong, and this applies to every role and every champion. If I ask you, hey, how do you think you snowball a lead? Most of you are going to probably say, well, you want to group with your team and set up to take dragon and siege all the towers that are still up. That's why you throw your leads and lose. Here's the problem. Most people ignore everything else. Screw side waves, jungle camps, whatever. Gotta go group. Now the thing is, this does work 70 to 80% of the time. You have the lead, so if your team 5v5s, you're likely to win. But sometimes you or one of your teammates is going to mess up and do something really, really dumb. Then you end up losing that fight like 30% of the time. And just like that, you've thrown the game. So how do you actually snowball consistently in low elo? Just don't immediately go to group without pressuring something first. So if all your team just walks out of base and goes to siege mid, what's gonna happen? The enemy team will just group and defend mid together. Now they can YOLO 5v5 and they have a chance of coming back if your team makes mistakes. But if you pressure something first, you never give them that opportunity. So for example, as an ADC if dragon is up, your instinct should be to push mid or bottom. This makes it impossible for the enemy team to contest dragon, so your jungler can just take it on their own anyway. And even if they do need help taking the dragon, you can still rotate over to group and help anyway. Or as a top laner, don't just go siege mid with your team. Push out top, put pressure there, and then collapse to take the free mid tower that the enemy team can't defend because you had so much pressure in another lane. This is how you win way more consistently when you have a lead. Grouping is such a big bait in this game, and it throws so many leads that lower elo players have. You can pressure and then group with your team. That way you win way more consistently. Okay, so the opposite question here, how do I play from behind? Technically, there is nothing you can do, you just capitalize on enemy mistakes. However, there is a way to incentivize more mistakes in like Diamond and below. First, this sounds counterintuitive, but I urge you to let the side lane outer towers go down. The faster they go down, the better. The reason why is simple. The laning phase is structured, meaning that every player, no matter what their elo, has a general idea of where they should be and what they should be doing. So if outer towers go down, the laning phase ends, and everyone starts running around like headless chickens. Throws happen way less often during the laning phase because everyone has a pretty good idea of what they're doing, so you want the mid game to come around faster. That's why it's completely okay to lose your outer towers even at like 10 to 12 minutes. Now the other thing you want to do is defend your mid outer tower at all costs. So if your team is doing something dumb, you don't help them, you just stay mid and keep that tower alive. So here's how that all comes together. When everyone is clueless about what to do, what does everyone end up doing? They just path towards mid, right? The ARAM jokes are a thing for a reason. Now, a bunch of random fights are going to start happening, and if your tower is still up, there is a good chance the enemy team turbo ints into it, letting you come back into the game. It sounds silly, but that's the most consistent way of coming back in solo queue. Don't feel like you have to be proactive to get back into the game. Just make it way more likely that your opponents throw their own leads. Okay, next. What do I do if my support just sits behind me the whole laning phase? You don't do anything. You just lose lane as gracefully as possible. You guys are not gonna like what I'm about to say. Okay, think about it. As much as you hate to admit it, that support is in the same elo as you. This means that even if they suck in lane, that they're surely capable at something else, right? Like team fighting or vision control or something. Basically, the more trash they are in lane, the better they are at everything else. I'm going to be honest. Out of all my time playing ADC and low elo, the games where I have an AFK enchanter in lane are honestly the easiest to win. Late game, those players tend to just sit by me, heal bot me, and I can carry. I will take that over a proactive engage support any day of the week in low elo. Okay, how do I learn macro? This one is easier than people think when you learn this one thing. Macro is just the laning phase, but later. I have never met anyone who really gets the laning phase who doesn't also understand macro. All the same concepts apply, they're just a bit different. Just like the start of the game, you want all 3 lanes farmed, so all the carries generally try to catch waves in every lane. You can also leave those lanes if the wave is in a good state. For example, if you've crashed the wave at an enemy tier 2 tower, you can go group with your team. That's exactly like the laning phase. Waves pushing back into you overpower your own wave. This means that you're missing less CS than your opponent by not being in that lane. That is the most basic of laning concepts, and it applies at all stages of the game. Or the opposite. During lane, most of you know that if a wave is pushing away from you, that's not good, so you go fix it by crashing the wave. Same thing in the mid game. Another thing, in the laning phase, to roam, you crash a wave, right? This forces your opponent to stay in lane to catch that wave while you move around the map. This doesn't change. Crash a wave and force someone to defend it while you force a 5v4 fight at Dragon at 25 minutes. I could go on and on and on. Macro is literally just the laning phase. Think about it like that and it'll make learning it so much easier. By the way, if you guys are enjoying this type of video, let us know. If feedback is positive, we'll probably do it again, but with questions from the comments. So just leave a question and I'll try to answer it next time. Moving on, as a jungler, what do I do when all my laners are losing and getting pushed in? I swear this is like asking what to do if a baby dropped $1 million in front of you. Look, I know most of you probably watch some high elo content creators, so you've probably heard them complain like, oh my god, I have 3 losing lanes, I can't play, go next randoms, JG diff I guess, XD. Okay. Look, I'm not blaming him, I act the exact same way sometimes. Jungle sucks when your lanes are losing. In high elo. Look, I think a lot of junglers overthink their role, especially if you're used to hearing comments like that. You begin to believe that there's nothing you can do when even challenger junglers have no way of dealing with it. So you get in your own head. But in low elo, those 3 losing lanes are just free overextended kills. Think about it. The point of priority in pushing is that those laners are moving from lane, warding, helping set up objectives, securing scuttle, etc. Do your teammates do any of that when they're winning? No, not always, right? So yeah, sure, you can't randomly do Rift Herald, Drake, or Invade, but whatever. Just go kill the overextended laners first. I have played jungle in low elo constantly, and this has never been an issue. You just run to those pushed in lanes and get free kills all the time, and if you're not, then you're probably overthinking it. Okay, this one's for the solo queue heroes out there. Every time I try to split push, my teammates die before I can pressure. What do? Really easy answer. You just have to split faster before your teammates are in a position to int. So this is a perfect example. Here you can see Vi hiding in a bush, getting ready to split. She sees the enemy team come out and instantly starts pressuring the tower. What happens is the worst case scenario. Her teammates get engaged on for free, but because Vi was already in position, putting pressure, she manages to take an inhibitor in response before the enemy team can come and defend. This is the #1 concept you need to remember if you ever want to split in solo queue. Your teammates will never play patiently, so it's on you to pressure faster and actually cross-map objectives if you are going to commit to split pushing. Alright, our final question. What do I do if my teammates aren't helping me ward? First thing to address there is why you expect anything out of them. Your general assumption every game is that you'll never receive help. That way you can never be disappointed and only pleasantly surprised. There's only one thing you can do to ward without help. Look at the map and see which members of the enemy team are showing. If you see all the big threats on the map, that usually means that you can move up to ward even dangerous areas that you normally couldn't. And if you don't see anyone, then just put down some shallow wards like these ones. There's nothing else you can do. You could be the best support in the world, and that is literally all you could do. Well, that's gonna be a wrap on this one. I hope some of those answers help you climb faster. Hope you enjoyed. See ya.